Set, we're good. Okay, to set this up, you guys are probably going to be working with, I know they're Canadian projects, but I think they're in Imperial, are they not?
Yeah, I think they're in
Okay, so what you want to do is type in units. We're just going to go ahead and change these to architectural. You can set the precision to whatever you like. 30-second is usually pretty good. And hit OK. Another thing for dimensions, type in dim style. Can you grab my book out of the bag? What we're going to do here is set up how your dimensions look, what size they are, types of arrows and stuff. It's pretty simple. So what you want to do is we can just make a new one. This is a new style of dimensions. So it doesn't matter what you name it. Start with the standard version for now and hit continue. We're going to start up in the far left tab under lines. So there's a few different ways you can run AutoCAD, and especially the layers. We were told to just teach you guys whatever we're most comfortable with. So what we're going to be doing is setting you up to use a CTB file, which is something I'll explain a little bit later. But basically what it means is your layer weights or line weights are going to be determined by the color of your lines. So what we want to do in here is set everything to by layer. Also, there's you'll see this little preview window. It will give you an idea of what you're actually changing in here. So when we're looking at extension lines and extend beyond dimension lines, what you're going to see up here is a change in, I'm just going to make everything a 1/4 inch in here just for simplicity. You can always go back and change this if you don't like the way it looks, if it's not matching your drawings properly, whatever. So we just set those as 1/4 inch. You can now move over to symbols and arrows. Again, I guess try and match the drawings you're looking at, but you could also just do whatever you think looks best. This is pretty typical, having an architectural tick and leaders with a closed filled arrow. Again, going to change the size to a 1/4 inch. Center marks. Also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shout them out whenever. If I'm going too fast, tell me. I am running through this pretty quick, but we are recording it, so hopefully you're comfortable with going back on YouTube. What else? Move over to the text tab. Again, here, standard is, you're going to be okay. It's just, I think it's Arial font. Yeah. Again, you can go in and change that to whatever you want, but you should be fine just using a typical Arial. Again, go back to by layer. You don't want any fill color. That's just going to make them look like that. It's kind of confusing and hard to read. Text, let's go ahead and make that 1/4 inch just because. Again, depending on what your drawings are like. I don't even know if you guys have to match the dimension styles in the drawings you're looking at, but if you want to go that far, go that extra mile, try and make the drawings look exact. There's other small things like this where maybe the dimensions are aligned with the dimension string. If you look up in the preview here, they're all aligned as opposed to vertical. Again, personal choice, whatever you want to do. Two more tabs here, so we'll go into the tab or fit. Fit options. Again, this is a personal choice, but I usually move. So if you read this, if there isn't enough room to place both text and arrows inside the extension lines, The first thing to move outside the extension lines is, what I like to do is move the text out, just because the arrows it looks funny when you start moving arrows around. Plus we're using architectural ticks, so that wouldn't really make sense. And I usually go with over dimension line without a leader, because if you have a leader in addition to dimension strings, it starts to look crazy and like a drawing itself. So I typically go with no leader. Lastly, we're going to look at primary units. We did change the units of the drawing, but the units of the dimensions have not been changed yet. So what you want to do is, again, switch this to architectural, whatever your precision is, and switch between diagonal, horizontal fractions. Don't worry about prefix, suffix. I don't think you guys have to deal with that. Yeah, and again, if you're looking at angular dimensions, maybe they're using radians or gradients in the drawings. This is where you change that. So that's it for the dimension styles. You guys shouldn't have to worry about alternative units or tolerances. So you can just hit OK and make sure you're selecting the new one that you made. I guess next we can look at layers. So what you're going to want to do is select this little button up here, layer properties. What will happen is this guy here should pop out. If you want, I usually keep it just anchored here on the side. Now where did it go? But great. So once you're in here, this little button up here is going to create a new layer for you. Before you do that, you should know that zero layer will always be present. It's just sort of your baseline layer. And later on, once you start drawing, I think it's when you create a viewport, I'm not sure, but what will happen is another layer will appear in here. It's called depth points. And it's just a layer that won't get printed. So you can see it, but it won't be printed. But we'll worry about that later. So right now, for your assignment, again, it's however many layers you think is appropriate. We're just going to create 3 layers here. And because we're going to use a CTB file to determine the line weights, we're going to make each one a different color. So let's say layer 1 is the thickest, we'll make it green. The next one, layer 2, make it teal. And layer 3, we'll make magenta. So basically what happens when you're drawing, after we set up the CTB file, the green layers will come out at whatever thickness you determine. Basically what the CTB file does is you assign thicknesses to colors. So green is going to be 0.1, teal will be 0.05, etc. So one more thing, let's say you have some dashed lines and they're also faint. So we'll keep them magenta, but you want them dashed. Click on here. You're likely not going to have any other options there, so what you do is you hit load, go find a dashed line, select it, and hit OK. And now what you have is a layer 4 is magenta and dashed. Great. That's it for layers. What we can do now is look at the layout. If you click on this little tab here at the bottom, you're going to open up a paper space item. So you guys are doing 11 by 17, yes? Okay, so what we can do here is right click. What you want to do is go to the Page Setup Manager. We'll just make a new page. Call it Setup 1 or A1, whatever. Let's just switch this to Adobe PDF. Paper size 11 by 17. So this is kind of like a printer dialog box. It should be familiar. 1 inch is 1 unit. Oh, sorry. You can switch between portrait and landscape. I'm not sure if you guys have. Do you know if it's supposed to be one or the other?
I would assume landscape.
Okay, so we'll just leave it in landscape for now. What we're going to do here is set up the CTB file. So currently you don't have one selected. If you hit new, we can just start from scratch. So this is again determining how heavy each line weight is depending on the color of the line. So let's just go. Click the plot style table editor. Great. Okay, so if you recall, we chose 3 colors: green, teal, and magenta. What we want to do is select the color that you want to identify the line weight for. Actually, let's just do this real quick. If you select all of these and just print them all as black. So what this means is, although they're colorful on your screen, when you print them out, they'll come out black instead of multicolored. Go back to the first color, whatever it was that you chose. In this case, it's green. The line weight, let's call it 0.3 millimeters, and that's going to be our heaviest one for now. You guys might get up to, if you got grade, maybe going up to 0.5. It depends what your scale is, but let's just go with this. If you're interested in any of this other stuff too, like screening, line type, and how that stuff might play into all this, you can just ask us later on. I'm just not going to cover it in the tutorial because this is just a really basic overview. And that goes for anything in AutoCAD. If you have questions about something that you may have seen but I'm not covering, just feel free to ask. So that's green. Go over to teal. We're going to set it at something a little bit less. Let's go 0.2, and magenta at 0.1. So save and close. Finish. So now this is your current CTB file being used. And I think we can hit OK. Yeah. Close. So now you have an 11 by 17 page, and it's going to read the colors of the lines that you're drawing in model space, which is this, as opposed to paper space, which is here. You guys also need a title block, correct? Okay, so I guess we will go over a couple commands because this is going really fast. Let's just start with a rectangle. If you just, so like you guys have used Rhino a bunch, I'm assuming. If you just type in whatever you want to do, AutoCAD has gotten really smart lately. It will likely pull up what you want. Even if you're spelling it wrong, it will probably pull it up. So rectangle, we're currently in the 0 layer, but let's say our title block, we want it to be a mid line weight. So specify your first corner and your second corner. We're also going to have, so that's, yeah, we'll run through some commands. So what I would do here is I would hit explode. What that's going to do is take the rectangle, put it into 4 different pieces. I'm just going to switch this to magenta because it might be a little bit easier to see for you guys. Or 0, just for fun for now. So for a title block, what you're going to want is a space for the page that you're on, person who drew it. You guys also have to reference the sources you have. There's also a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo you'll see in the real world. That
Scale.
Oh, scale is another not mumbo jumbo thing. But let's go ahead and just offset one of these sides and determine, let's call it 1 inch. So if you select it, select the side you want to offset to. There, you've got just a border piece here. Again, if you hit, so I've been hitting, I should talk about the keyboard. Do you guys want hotkeys mentioned or not? You guys want to figure that out? Okay, don't all shout out at once. Rectangle, R, E, C, yeah. Offset, OFF, actually it might just be O. Line, L, trim, which is similar to that in Rhino, trim, TR, let's go with that for now. So what you can do now is offset another 1 inch. If you just hit spacebar, it's kind of like enter. Trim. What we're going to do here is just offset this one guy. Let's just go 1 inch each time. So what you can do in here now is say drop in some text for your page number. Might want to reduce the size. Copy, CP. Alright, so say you come across this issue where 1 inch is not big enough. Stretch, if you hit S, enter, and select with the green box as opposed to the blue box. Green goes left and down, blue is up and right. Cut through, as in cut through the lines that you want to stretch, and select them. Deselect the scale you don't want to by holding shift. Deselect the scale, and what you can do is then hit enter, pick any point. Sorry. Pick any point. And if you hold, so something we didn't cover earlier was O-snaps. You'll see here this isn't really wanting to lock onto any sort of perpendicular line. So if you exit out of that, thank you. If you type in O-snaps, what you're going to want to have is endpoint, midpoint. Center is pretty helpful. Nodes can be helpful. Intersections, definitely. Extensions, yeah. Perpendicular, tangent. Again, if you're using stuff and you think you might need to use these to find a point in space while you're modeling, feel free to go turn them on. Should be good. For the perpendicular, I believe we want to hit ortho mode or polar tracking. So that try. So now it will sort of hug a perpendicular line. And if we just go another 1 inch, should give you enough room to write some stuff down here. Copy. I missed anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if you guys have this, essentially, you can go in, feel free to make the text smaller so it fits better. Feel free to extend your title block out, but remember that the larger your title block gets, the less room you're going to have for your drawings, which is probably more important right now.
We can fill in right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't feel obliged to put the title block on the side. You can run it along the bottom. Same thing if you are using a portrait sheet. Same thing. It might be better across the bottom. That's up to you, unless they've actually specified it to be a landscape assignment. I'm not sure. So with regards to this, you can always spruce this up so it looks a little better, maybe a little more professional. Maybe you've just got a little bit of fill on the sides. Have you guys dealt with, do you deal with fill in Rhino?
Yeah.
Hatch? Yeah, okay, so same idea. Select a hatch type and select the space that you want it to fill. Hit enter, and now you got just a little bit of an anchor in the corner. This sort of thing is just, it's up to you. You guys can look up online any sort of drawing package. You've got amazing drawing packages to look at and sort of get ideas from. If you want to replicate them perfectly, go for it. As for drawing in the actual model space, that's pretty straightforward. If you're having troubles, you should have a ribbon up here. I'll give you the basic commands. Line. If you select a space, then hit the distance, so you've got a 10-foot wall. Type in 10 feet. Let's just do quick. do a quick plan. And just like in Rhino, you can do this any number of ways. You can start with a rectangle and explode it, and draw a couple of lines and offset them. It's really up to you, whatever you think works best. Are there any questions so far? I apologize for the lame tutorial. I'm just not really feeling 100% right now. They will get better.
What are the keys for the trim?
Trim is TR. So you hit TR, select the pieces you want to trim. It's a little, I think it's a little different than Rhino, yeah?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than Rhino. I also, I asked Matt and Jody if you guys were allowed to do these drawings in Rhino as well. And Jody said basically like if you can fake it to make it look like it was done in AutoCAD, if you're more comfortable with Rhino, then you can do it. Same with like if you want to do it in Revit, you can fake it, make it look the same. You can do it. But the whole point is that you guys learn some basic AutoCAD stuff because it will come in handy. Like I don't use AutoCAD ever, but like in the office over the summertime I did use it. It takes like 5 seconds to learn, and it's good just to have like a couple of the basics. So it's a good kind of refresher or.
We would strongly recommend you do it in AutoCAD if you haven't used AutoCAD before, just so you can familiarize yourself with the program. You don't have to become a pro, but if you get a job, you can at least say you've used it before and you know your way around it, which is a good head start.
Is lining up with the grid important at all?
The grid in the background?
Yeah.
Important. I mean, it's up to you. It's sort of there just as a guide. It's more important for you guys to just get the drawings to scale, and I guess we should talk about scale.
Exporting to scale.
Yeah, we should get, what you want is just to replicate the drawings in the packages. Don't worry about.
But like it won't, if you move it too far to one side, it won't like not show up in the page or something.
Oh no, model space is infinite. I mean, if you get too big of a file, it'll start to crap out on you, but yeah, it goes for a ways. So don't worry about where it is. I mean, if you can, try and keep it close to the XY0 origin point, but.
And the multiple drawings, you just do them like next to each other?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We have to make one of them different scale. So if the scale's on the side, how do you do that?
Right. Okay, we'll cover some scale stuff now. Let's just do, let's put a door in here, and we'll have a rough plan and maybe a detail of a door in a corner, and we'll put them both to different scales in paper space. So to start, let's just I'm not going to narrate these commands, just to do them quickly, so feel free to watch the command prompt. But Okay, so really dumb entryway with some striped tiles. I don't know. What you want to do is in your paper space, to be able to see into your model space, you have to open up a window. So, and what those windows are called are viewports. Whoa. Just want a single one. So that's what you're drawing in model space. It's a window to that. If you double click into this space, it's kind of like you're working in model space. You can draw in here. You can move it around just like it's as if you were in model space. What you want to do now is select your scale. These are metric, aren't they? When you guys, does anybody have this open and working on it right now? If you guys click on the scale here, what do you have? Do you have 1 to 1, 1 to 2, or do you have like 3/16, 1/8?
1/100, 2 to 1.
It's all metric? Okay. Okay. Sorry? Okay, yeah, okay, so that's good. If you don't, just try and remember that when you open up your original file, try and make sure it's an Imperial file. If you are working in Imperial, like an Imperial base file. Otherwise, it can be a pain in the butt to change this. I forget how to do that at the moment, but worst case scenario, you can create a new one. So if you just take your paper units, which are 1 inch, and convert it into, or sorry, your drawing units are 1 inch, you can do it that way. But I don't want to go through trying to figure that out right now, so I'll try and update that on the YouTube video. Hopefully you guys don't run into this issue, but it's not a terrible fix. It's just, anyways. Let's run ahead and just choose a scale here. Not that one, that's too big. So you've got a plan view now, and if you double click out of that window, you can adjust this guy and place it anywhere on that paper space. You can then go ahead and, title it down here, add your title, add your scale, number your drawings. What you can also do is if you were to copy that guy down and we want to just focus on the corner with the door there, go in and choose a different scale, and we'll just look at that by itself. I'm going to cheat right now. There. Okay, so also don't worry about the grid showing up in here. It's not going to show up when you print, but you can open it up, and I think it's just grid off. If you see right here, it'll give you options. So if it's distracting to you, feel free to just get rid of it. Another thing, you see these viewports, when we created them, we were on layer 2. What you might want to do is, so there's still no def points in there, but what you can do is create a new layer that won't get printed. So if we go back into this layer properties menu and click new layer, type, I don't know why the def points isn't showing up yet, but we'll just call it no print. And you can make it whatever color you want. It doesn't really matter. But what you want to be sure to click is plot. So if you click that little button there, this guy will not get printed. So you can see it on your paper space. You can see where what it's holding. But when you print, it won't change. So now that you have that layer, if you go in and select these two viewports, change it to no print. When you do print it, it won't come out. Does that make sense? Kind of. Are there any other questions?
How do you annotate?
Right. So if you go back into model space, I gotta cross some of these off. Okay. So in your standard ribbon here, you're gonna have text, dimensions, and leaders. But if you're not getting what you want out of these, you can always go to the Annotate tab. It's going to be a lot more there. So let's just toss in a partition wall just so we can make this more realistic. So let's say you're dimensioning this plan. If you go into Annotate and click the dimension string, choose where you want it to go, click. So that's the standard dimension string. If you were to click this guy here, continue, it'll pick up off the last corner you used, and you can just continue using it. So if you've got a long stretch of dimension strings, that's really helpful, so you don't have to keep clicking that guy. And you'll see that they're probably showing up really small right now because what we set them as is 1/4 inch, right? So if you were to look in here, super small. This could be difficult.
How do you change it?
So sloppy way to change this is open up your properties window. And all those values we punched in earlier, you'll see here. 1/4 inch. If you want, what you can do is increase them here. So I didn't think this far ahead. What I usually do is use something called Annotative Dimensioning. And what that does is it automatically changes your dimension string to look the same in every window, essentially. So those 1/4 inch values that we punched in, they would come out in the viewport as 1/4 inch. I haven't done it as non-annotative in a long time, and now I'm having a brain fart as to how that works. Lauren?
I only use annotative,
Okay.
but I think you can read drawing in 1:1 and
Yeah.
I don't think it changes scale when you go into a viewport unless it's annotative.
Right.
I think you have to actually change the text size for the dimensions.
Right. Okay. Do you guys want to know how to do annotative stuff? It might not be worth it for this size of a project, but we can go through it. And it's probably a helpful skill. It's good to know. Or are you guys tired and want to just go work? You want to do it? Okay. Let's do that then. So if we go back into model, let's say open up dim styles again. Let's create another new one. And you can use the one that you used before. So the one we created in this file is copy 2 of standard, or copy of standard. What we want to do is make it annotative this time. And I believe okay, let's give that a try. So if you select these, we drew them in 1-to-1, but we want them to be annotative. This will work.
Hey Brad, you have to add the scales to the actual dimension, to the annotation.
Right, thank you.
And then it'll show up.
It's been a while. What would I do? Okay, so after you guys have created that annotative dimension string, which is basically what we've done before, you just click annotative. You have to go in here and add the scale that your viewport is to these guys. So what did we have originally? In this drawing, we had it at what, 1-to-30? If you want those dimension strings to show up in this drawing, what you have to do is select them, and in the Properties menu, go to the miscellaneous annotative scale, add 1-to-30, hit OK, and hopefully this works. There we go. So now what's happening is those dimensions will show up, and they're 1/4 inch in real life. Like when you print out, those sticks will be 1/4 inch. The font will be 1/4 inch. So same thing. Let's say we're looking at this guy, which is 1-to-10, and we're just looking at that little piece down there. So if we do another dimension, and we just want, say, the width of that wall and that distance there. So these guys are, again, we're drawing them at 1-to-1 down here, but what you want to do is set them to 1-to-10, so they will show up in the 1-to-10 window. So if you look here, now they show up there. And this is a good example of when we're going through dim styles, when there's not enough room between the two ticks for the text. The option I clicked was for it to just be bumped out without a leader. So what you can do now is just sort of move it to whatever place you feel is appropriate for it. The Does that clear up the annotative text? I know I stumbled through that and I apologize. It's been a while since I've been AutoCAD. Should we do some leaders, maybe? Some symbols? We can do that too. Multi-leader. Select where you want to go. Pretty straightforward. Again, everything's you can change everything in the sort of properties menu. So the multi-leader style has its own sort of set of rules. So just like we set up a dim styles rule, you can set up multi-leader styles. For this size project, I don't think it'll be worthwhile. Now that guy, will it show up? Symbols, should we do symbols? Dynamic or not? No, we'll just send a link to a YouTube video for that one. Yeah. Okay.
For like scales and like markers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll just point out at this point that there's also something called blocks and dynamic blocks. So a block in AutoCAD is essentially just, if you guys use SketchUp, it's like a group. It's a way to group stuff. So if we were to use this door, say 6 times in your plan, and you don't want to draw it over and over and over, what you can do is select it and make it a block. You can name it, let's call it 36-inch door. The base point is basically where, when you drop a new block in, wherever you point is where this point is going to be. So let's say I want that point there, so that when I'm actually dropping it on a wall, I can just find the exterior face of the wall and drop it in. What that will do is it'll open up a block editor window. What you can do here, make any changes to that block, and it's like making changes to a, what are they, groups and something else in SketchUp.
Yeah, the groups. The groups in the
Okay. Anyways, you make one change here, and it will change all of them. I'll point out that if you want to get a little more complicated, again, you're not going to have to do that for this assignment, but there's something called dynamic blocks. And what you can do is add basically adjustment toggles to these blocks. So all you have to do is essentially, in the example of a door, you can build one door, but if you add a dynamic element to it, you can change the width of that door. So you can have, say, 36-inch doors, 38-inch doors, and 40-inch doors, and you only have to draw it once. And what you do is when you place it, if you were to place that block, what would happen is there would be toggles here, and you just click on it, and it would say, do you want 36, 38, 40-inch door? If you're interested in that, you can look it up on YouTube. There's plenty of videos for dynamic blocks, but we're not going to go over that today because that's another thing I haven't covered in a while. So,
How are you guys making out with the assignment? Have you started yet? Anybody? No? Has everybody been able to get access to their drawings? Yeah.
I guess my question's more so what they're really looking for in use, like planning session.
So you're supposed to do a corner.
Yeah.
Right, so I think what you'll have to do is go through the drawing package and find all the different details that you'll need, to make that corner, to be able to like draw it from top to bottom.
You're required to have 3 drawings at the start, correct? Yeah.
Do you just one level, or if there's like multiple levels, you put it from the very top to the very bottom?
I think it has to be a minimum of 1 level, like you have to have floor assembly, wall, roof assembly, or like another floor assembly, I guess. I mean, I would assume like you want to probably do the whole corner to actually like represent. Yeah.
Keep in mind though that you only have 1 piece of paper, and you might run out of space. And we know that if you do 1 floor and you show it really well, we know that you understand the corner really well. So yeah. Make sure you have a floor, wall, roof, and you should be okay. And again, we're both here quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like I almost live here, so feel free to come down and grab us whenever you guys want. We're more than willing to help, and I promise you it's way better in person than in tutorial mode.
Yeah.
So any questions?
If we're calling out individual scales for each drawing, we still need to note